Chapter 20. Cleanup on Alley 5. From the quiet confines of his office, Ben watched as the city's lights twinkled in the twilight. The sprawling cityscape painted a beautiful picture of urban life, but for Ben, it was a grim reminder of the dangers that lurked beneath the surface. His mind centered around one individual, David. A boy who had been thrust into a life filled with struggles and challenges that no one his age should have had to face. Ben looked forward to watching how David would use this fresh start. Although he had a vast pool of resources and a network of influential connections, Ben knew that the best way to help David was to let him live and try to make his own decisions. While he did, Ben would continue protecting him from the shadows. The conversation he had with James earlier still echoed in his mind. Each word was a reminder of the massive undertaking he had shouldered. Until now, he had carried out the investigation of William and Bethany Hall's murders on his own. His request to James to investigate potential threats towards the Hall family marked the beginning of a dangerous game. A game that was as much about power and influence as it was about protection and survival. As he sat back in his leather chair, Ben cracked his neck and shook off the anxiety he felt beginning to creep up. He knew the situation would only complicate further in the coming days, but he was committed to ensuring David's safety no matter what. He had made a promise to himself and to the memory of his old friends, David's mother and father, that he would do whatever it took to protect their son. Looking down at his desk, his eyes landed on a picture of William and Bethany Hall. Ben was in his early 20s when they saved him from the streets. Back then, Dalton was riddled with crime and drugs, all controlled by the big family empires of the time. His own parents had contracted HIV from drug injections and died not long after from overdose. If the Halls hadn't given him a job and a place to live, Ben would have likely met the same fate. Slowly but surely, they worked to clean up the streets, feeding the hungry and sheltering the homeless. After years of thankless toil, their influence grew, and eventually, they found favor with all the people. More were added to their number day by day, those who were being saved, and thus the Hall family empire was born. To the powerful elites who were so preoccupied with their whims and fancies, it may have seemed like the Halls had come from out of nowhere, but Ben knew the truth. The Halls dug their roots deep, and when the big families tried to cut them down, William and Bethany shattered their axes. In a way, things were much simpler then. All Ben had to do was protect William and Bethany and keep them out of harm's way. If they traveled without him, he protected members of the Hall family empire. He was security. He couldn't have imagined that he'd be in the position he was in now, trying to run the remains of the family, trying to keep it alive. He wished his friends were here now to guide him, to provide their valuable insight. But they were gone, and now it was up to Ben to ensure that their legacy carried on through David. Picking up his phone, Ben dialed a private number, one that was directly connected to one of the Hall family's loyal servants. He was one of the many who were still devoted to the Hall family, his loyalty unquestionable, despite the passing of his masters. "Sir Atlas, how can I be of service?" came the brisk and professional voice from the other end. "I need you to handle something for me. It's a sensitive matter." "Of course, sir. What do you need?" the servant asked, ready to carry out any task bestowed upon him. "There's an alley on 5th Street, not far from the Rising Phoenix Hotel. You'll find a man there, unconscious," Ben instructed. "Make sure he's taken care of and there's no trace left behind." "Understood, sir. It will be handled." "Thank you," Ben said, ending the call. He knew he could trust the servant to handle the situation efficiently and discreetly. The Hall family might not be what it once was, but their influence and legacy were far from over.